Today's the final day of OTAs. Doug Peterson met the media today. I thought there was a lot of interest, for this OTA. I thought we learned some things here over the last couple of days. John McMullen was there over at 97.3 ESPN.com. He's got a piece up about more from today.
And good alliteration, too. His headline is Wentz's Wobble Worry. That's 3 W's, and that is good alliteration. John McMullen. Nice job by you, John.
Thanks, Chief. And how many people know what alliteration is? Most people think it's just 2 straight words, but you need the 3.
That's
so
right.
I'm impressed that you understand that.
Oh, I'm a big fan.
And he has the 3 in there, Peter.
Somebody got Peterson to say wobble, huh?
Yeah, he said he agreed. It was asked about Carson's passes. Some of them wobble. Generally comes out once or twice every practice, and he agreed. He saw it. He's not too worried about it. Thinks it's more of a mechanical issue, sort of combined with the fact he's trying to speed up his decision-making, which makes a lot of sense for a young quarterback because you're always trying to think about what your next read is or where you're supposed to go for the football. And all of a sudden, when you start overthinking, then some of the mechanics break down, and that's where you get some of those wobbly passes. So that's what Doug was pointing out. He's not concerned about it, but other people certainly were this week, and that's why it came up in one of his press conferences.
Now, John, since I'm supposed to represent the voice of the fan, the normal response would be, I'll take a wobble over a throw at someone's feet.
Yeah, well, I would say this. I assume that's a shot at Donovan McNabb.
It was.
If Carson Wentz ends up being having a career as good as Donovan McNabb, I think everybody will be happy. So, but hey, maybe I'm wrong because everybody's not happy with Donovan, obviously. But I know the Eagles will be thrilled if Carson Wentz develops enough to have a career like Donovan McNabb had, and that's what the Eagles want. They want consistency, and they want success from year to year. And to do that in this league, you need high-level play at the quarterback position.
Yeah, and what is, Bradford is taking a bunch of the guys to San Diego, right? Is that part of the next week's, 5-week plan here?
Yeah, they're going to go out for about a week. Number of quarterbacks and skill position players. All the quarterbacks are going to be there.
Right. So Wentz is going with them?
He said he's going to try to make it, so he's supposed to be there. Chase Daniel said today he was going. Jordan Matthews, Nelson Aguilar, Chris Gibbons is going to be out there. Even Lane Johnson is going to make an appearance. I'm not sure why, but I don't know if you need a right tackle to throw. But it's just a chance to sort of gain a rapport between teammates. And Mark Sanchez did it last year. I'm not sure. Remember, at this time last year, Sam Bradford wasn't a full go yet. He was not completely healthy, didn't do a lot of work in the off season, and really didn't get into it full bore until deep into training camp. So he never had an opportunity to do that kind of thing. He's already had Zach Ertz and Jordan Matthews down to Oklahoma. I'm not sure how much that kind of stuff helps, but it's better than nothing. And I know the coaching staff likes it because they always hold their breath with this 6-week period, because you'll see it around the league. When guys have a lot of free time, they tend to get in trouble, and we all hope nothing happens like that for the Eagles. But if you're together working out, it's much less likely to happen.
John, one of the names you mentioned there was Lane Johnson, and I saw a report today that Lane Johnson thinks that training camp's going to be a little more intense.
Oh, it definitely is. Doug made that clear yesterday. They're going to have hitting at training camp. They're going to have live periods, and Eagles haven't had that since Andy Reid was here. Chip Kelly eliminated tackling in practices. There were no live periods for 3 consecutive years, and that's going to change this year. And I think the players, for the most part, are excited, certainly the big guys, because they like to hit every once in a while. And Brandon Grant specifically, I was telling Mike yesterday, is was really, really excited about 9-on-7s coming back and sort of having a chance to hit some of the running backs and just get the kind of feel for that because, hey, let's face it, on Sundays you got to hit anyway, so you might as well get a little bit out of the way and get used to it in training camp.
John McMullen's with us. Doug Peterson going through this for the first time, John, and he was asked today about what did he find out about this team over the OTAs here? What did he say about what he's learned about this group of guys over the last month and a half or so that they've had these OTAs?
Well, he said it was a smarter group than he expected, and they picked up things a lot quicker than he was expecting. Remember, this is an entirely new system, entirely new philosophy from what Chip Kelly was doing on both sides of the football, offense and defense. So I think when they started this group install period, which is really what the off-season workouts were about, he thought there was going to be more hiccups. And I think there were a few early in the process. You saw a lot of jumping off sides from the defense because they weren't used to typical NFL snap counts because they were used to practicing where Chip Kelly, and you knew the play was going to come off with the first cadence because the whole mentality of his offense was to run a play every 9 or 10 seconds or so. And here you're back to, if you ever watch Aaron Rodgers play, you'll see him draw the defense offside 3 or 4 times a game just by varying his cadence, his snap call, and it can be really, really helpful. The defense struggled with that early, but they got better as things went on, and I think the offense is sort of feeling its way. I know Doug said he wished Isaac Seumalo could have been here, but that's that graduation rule. He has to stay in college, won't be here till training camp. But I think he's very happy, and his point was this is a very smart group, and they're picking things up quickly.
Yeah, and he also mentioned a guy that stood out the most to him, and you've mentioned him as a guy that you think has clearly been the best guy at his position, and that's Leotis McKelvin. It sounds like that he has been pretty impressive to Doug Peterson and the coaching staff.
Yeah, and as I said early on, I mean, it's by leaps and bounds. Leotis McKelvin is the best cornerback on this team. It's not hard to decipher, and Doug kind of went public with that today. He's been really worlds better than everybody else at that particular position. And what we've been seeing from the rest of the guys is sort of mixing and matching. Eric Rowe started out as the other starting corner, and then it was Jalen Mills, the rookie. Now Nolan Carroll's back. Ron Brooks got some looks with the first team on the outside. And now today, for the second straight day, it was McKelvin and Carroll on the outside and Brooks in the slot in the starting nickel. So it's starting to develop, and you kind of see what Jim Schwartz is going to like and going to want. And the one cemented guy, if he's healthy, no questions about it, is going to be Leotis McKelvin. And the thing about what's so good about Leotis, he's versatile. He can be the left corner. He can be the right corner. He doesn't have a problem lining up on both sides. That's important because Eric Rowe has only been situated on the right side, and Nolan Carroll has really more comfortable on the left side. So no matter who wins out of those two guys, all of a sudden you can put McKelvin wherever you want and have that player feel a little bit more comfortable. So he's very important for this team in a lot of ways, not just the fact that he's, as I said, by far the best cornerback they have.
John, I know on the offensive side of the ball, one of the topics, at least on the offense last year, were the drops. Now, Doug Peterson wasn't around for that, but the receivers have talked about it. What does the coach say about the drops that they had and how they fixed that?
Well, it's repetition, and he talked about, getting on the jugs machines after practice, catching balls. By and large, I thought it improved for most of the off season until the last couple of days, and you saw the dropsies kind of come back up with Nelson Aguilar specifically, who I thought, as a whole, really, really showed improvement, but sort of took a step back yesterday specifically. Probably had his worst day of the spring. They're going to have to prove things, though, Pete, because they dropped a lot of balls last year. And Jordan Matthews, that was one of the knocks on him going all the way back to Vanderbilt when he was in college. He was very high-volume guy, caught a lot of passes, but also dropped a lot. And that's exactly what he's been with the Eagles. And I think it's a concentration issue with him specifically more than anything else. But when you have the new guys, I think Reuben Randall, Chris Givens are a little more consistent catching the football. And I think that'll improve things. But it's certainly not one of the strongest parts of this team, the receiver position as a whole.
Now, one of the places where it seems like Doug Peterson and Chip Kelly actually are in step or in line together is their praise of Brent Selleck. What did the coach have to say about Brent Selleck today?
Well, he's just a professional. I mean, he's been around so long. Brent talked at his locker today, and somebody asked him if he remembered all the quarterbacks he's played with since he's been here, and it's quite the list. And he almost got most of them. Poor Mark Sanchez, who's good friends with Selleck. For some reason, he couldn't come up with that name. But he's just an old-school tight end, and you don't see it much in the NFL anymore because when you see these guys in vogue, whether it's Jimmy Graham, Julius Thomas, who was in Denver with Peyton Manning when he was setting all the records, now in Jacksonville, you have these glorified wide receivers playing tight end. And Zach Ertz is a little bit like that himself because he's a great receiver, but you don't necessarily want him to be the inline blocker, and that's what Selleck is capable of doing. He can catch the football, he can block, and he can do everything. He's so well-rounded. I think Doug is going to be very, very comfortable using a lot of two tight end formations with this team, and not only because of Ertz and Selleck, but also because they like their other tight ends, and that's Trey Burton and Chris Pantale. So they have a lot of depth at that position. And when I say receiver isn't one of the strengths, Doug specifically said tight end is. So I think you're going to see a lot of two tight end sets if guys are healthy this season.
John McMullen's with us, 97.3 ESPN.com, covering the Eagles' final day of OTAs. John, Chip Kelly, he seemed to tick just about everybody off, the front office, the locker room. But when you look at Doug Peterson's practices and OTAs next to Chip Kelly's, do you see a guy that's, that Doug Peterson is a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of what Chip, like looking back at Chip's practices and just saying, you know what, I can see why there was a lot of problems with this team.
Well,
just the way that Doug runs things, right? Just the way Doug's running things.
I mean, I'm an old school guy, so for somebody like me, it's far more traditional. So it makes more sense to me how Doug does things. Now, while I say that, and I've criticized Chip Kelly a lot, as you know, Mike, I also give him credit. I'm not going to take away that he fielded a top 5 offense for 2 straight seasons. So there was some method to his madness, and nobody was complaining about it when they were having success. I think a lot of it, obviously, when you start to lose and people start to question things at that point, say, okay, well, this isn't working, so why aren't you adapting? I think that's where Chip kind of got lost. And in fact, that's what the NFL is about. It's a big chess match on grass, and it's about adjusting to what the opposition is doing to you. Defensive coordinators around this league adjusted to Chip Kelly. He didn't adjust back, and I thought that's when the antenna started going up on certain people and saying, is this guy going to be a long-term success if he's not willing to at least visit some other options? Whereas Doug is a more traditional NFL coach, and the fact that he believes in game planning for the defense that he's going to play on a particular Sunday. In other words, he's not going to run what he wants to run and not be concerned that maybe Ndamukong Suh is on the other side of the field. Because if you remember when the Dolphins came in here and how Suh beat up the Eagles, well, Doug's probably going to double team him, and he is probably going to pay more attention to him and be a more traditional NFL coach in that manner. I think a lot of guys believe in that. And I think a lot of people are happy that Chip is gone. But that doesn't necessarily say the Eagles are better off. He has to prove that first and foremost, and he has to prove it by winning football games.
John, Sam Bradford said he gained a lot of respect for Doug Peterson because of how he handled this whole offseason situation. What did that mean to Doug Peterson, that Bradford basically came out and praised the whole situation, which was, bungled in a lot of respect?
Yeah, I mean, he talked about the trust and the fact that Sam now trusts him, and it goes both ways. And that goes all the way back to when Jeffrey Lurie fired Chip Kelly and coined the term emotional intelligence. And we all kind of laughed about it at the time and said, Jeffrey kind of comes up with that corporate speak. But now, in hindsight, you can look at it and understand it. And because Doug just has a better rapport with people. He's just a better people person, and he communicates better. And not, by the way, I'm not talking in a press conference format, because we all talk about how witty Chip Kelly was, and he would always have the one-liner and the quotes ready. But just everyday communication between individuals, between coach and player. If you're going to look at a strength where Doug Peterson dwarfs Chip Kelly in, it's that. And I think you can already see it with the players. He's only been here for a few months. They haven't played one game under Doug Peterson, and you already get the feeling there's 90 guys in that locker room that will do everything in their power to win for him.
All right, John, OTAs are done. We got a little break here. So what I want to do is, as we exit the OTAs, I want to get your thought on on who's going to be the starter as you see out at OTAs. So at left tackle, we got Peters, right?
Yeah, Jason Peters. That's as long as he's healthy, no-brainer there.
All right. Who's your left guard?
Right now, Alan Barber, and we talked about Chip. Doug said it was his guy, but, for the first time today, if you guys have the transcript, you'll see him talking about Alan Barber and how versatile he is, and the fact that he can move and play any position on the offensive line except center. So I think the mentality for this team is that if Isaac Seumalo comes in training camp and plays the way they expect him to play, they would rather have him be the starting left guard and have Barber be the sixth man on game day.
All right. Center Kelsey?
Yeah, Jason, no-brainer. The rest of them, Brandon Brooks at right guard, Lane Johnson at right tackle.
All right.
And that, by the way, might be one of the strongest parts of this team.
Okay. We got tight end, is it going to be Selleck or Ertz?
No, Ertz is going to get most of the reps. I think they are going to use a lot of two tight end formations. But I do think three wide receivers is going to be their main offensive formation that they use more than anything else. And those three would be Ruben Randall and Aguilar on the outside, Jordan Matthews in the slot.
All right.
And sort of when they go to two tight ends, that would be Ertz and Selleck. But when it's one, it's going to be Ertz for the majority of the time.
All right, we got Bradford and the running back. I guess there's not really a one, or do you think that somebody will take over the load, as if you will, at running back?
No, I think it's going to be a committee, but I think it's going to be Ryan Matthews as sort of the head of the committee, and they're definitely want to get Darren Sproles involved as a third down back and get him in space as much as possible. So it'll be Matthews as the number one, and then they'll have a sort of a guy to give him a blow every now and again, and that'll be Wendell Smallwood or Kenyon Barner, which is a lot closer than you would imagine and then Sproles would be the third down back.
All right, that's your offense. Who's your front four on the defensive side of the ball after OTAs?
Front four is Connor Barwin at right end, Vinny Curry at left end, Fletcher Cox at under tackle, and Benny Logan at nose tackle, and that is a very, very solid group.
Yep, that's a good four right there. And, Logan's going to be interesting because we've seen Cox in the 4-3. Logan got here when the 3-4 came, so we haven't really seen him in the 4-3.
Yeah, but I think he just from his body frame is better suited to play in the 4-3 than the 3-4. Generally, nose tackles in the 3-4 are those really, really big, heavy guys like Haley Nada or Haloti Nada, somebody like that who's 330, 340, whereas Benny's really just 305, 310. So I think this defense suits him a lot better than the 3-4.
All right, your three linebackers are?
Jordan Hicks, and hopefully he can stay healthy. He's been back out there the last 2 days, so he's over the latest quad spasm. So he's the middle linebacker. Weak side is Michael Kendricks, and strong side is Nigel Bradham. That's a position I'm a little concerned with, just because not only the injury history of Hicks, but also Kendricks and the lack of depth behind the starters.
All right, your corners. McKelvin, I would assume, on one side. Who's opposite?
I think it's going to be Nolan Carroll. It's early. He's just back out there, but you get the feeling that he was pushed up to the number one unit so quickly. The Eagles understand he at least knows how to play and can hold down the fort sort of at that position. So I think it's going to be McKelvin. It's going to be Carroll. And that's one of the most disappointing things for me, of the OTA period, is the fact that Eric Rowe, if anything, instead of seizing an opportunity to take a job, has taken a big step backward.
And McLeod and Jenkins at safety. That is the Eagles depth chart from John after the OTAs. We will, of course, be checking back at around the 28th. Is that 28th of July when they get a report?
I think the rookies show up on the 25th, and the veterans have to be there reporting on the 27th. I think the first practice is on the 28th.
All right, John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. He's got more on the Eagles OTAs. All right, John, enjoy the break from football.
And us.
There's never. Trust me, the Eagles will do something. They always want. They always want to be on the back page.
I thought you were going to say there's never a break from us.
And who wants to take a break from you guys?
Come on now.
I heard the window story. I mean, they don't want you in Vegas. They don't want you opening the windows.
Right, because
so
if
you
you
don't
lose at
jump
the
out
table,
and commit suicide after you lose all your money.
I don't know why this is a surprise to him. I've never been in a hotel that's been more. I mean, if it's more than 8 floors, the windows don't open.
Yeah, they don't want you opening the window because there's too many depressed people out there.
That's right.
Well,
not us, not these three.
No, not these three.
We having a good old time in here. All right, man. Take care.
All right, thanks, guys.